Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Ask Dr. Be Good show, the show where we reach out and try to bring you the good things happening in public education, along with the politics, the pedagogy, and the practices that impact really most of us. Some of you think that because you don't have kids in school now, maybe never, that this isn't a show that should be important to you, but really, it's important for all people to understand the impact that being effective with our kids today will mean a more effective economy down the road, right? And so being able to keep up with what's happening in the world of public education is everyone's job. Whether you had kids in school, whether your kids are long gone. I hear sometimes that people who are seniors want to stop paying school taxes, but that's really not going to benefit our economy down the road. And we do need to work for the collective good, right? So let's keep our eye on the prize. And the prize is a strong economy down the road. So we all have to work towards that. And speaking of the practices and the goings on in public education, I'm sure you're all reading headlines that have to do with whether teachers are coming back next year. I don't know if you've been scared yet by the headlines, especially if you're a parent, that I saw somewhere that already some school districts have only 64% of their teachers operating in place, and that the rest of the openings must be filled by subs if they can find them, central staff, and even bus drivers. So folks, we have a crisis that's looming, and we need to get ahead of it. But what are some of the creative things that we can do? Let me show you in here why Texas districts are opting for a 4-day school week. So some Texas districts have already done it or are looking to do it. So let's see, thinking big in one small Texas town means shifting to a 4-day school week, a trend in education gaining favor in the rural areas of the Lone Star State. Petrolia is the educational hub for 4 towns ranging from small to tiny in North Texas, around 15 miles from the Oklahoma border. The city's population is 540, but that's about 100 kids shy of doubling when the school is in session at Petrolia Consolidated Independent School District. Educators hope that giving Fridays off from February through the end of April 2022 will boost morale to help kids get the most out of their education and make working for the district an alternative gig. Not alternative, attractive gig. We see it as a bonus for parents to have family time, said PCISD Superintendent David Hedges. They can plan short weekend trips, and it's a recruitment and retention tool. He said teachers will work 15 days less during the academic year without a pay cut. It will help us compete with the bigger schools. To meet the state requirement, because I don't know if you know, in Texas, you have to meet a minimum amount of instructional minutes. So to meet the state requirement, students will put in an extra half an hour at the end of each of those first 4 school days. Buses don't have to run earlier. We will still feed our students breakfast, but they will now have slightly longer class periods. When the district officials were considering shifting to a 4-day week, Hedges talked it over with Woodson ISD Superintendent Casey Adams. This school year was the first full year for Woodson to have a Monday through Thursday schedule. So the district's 159 kids attend school about 123 miles northwest of Fort Worth. And what initially brought this out is that we're a very, very remote rural school, he said. We don't have a lot of wealth. So district officials figured they needed to do something different to set WISD apart. We wanted to attract and retain high quality staff. It seems like we always got them stolen from us because they could make more money elsewhere. But the districts could give them something that wouldn't ratchet up costs. Time is very valuable. So giving teachers the option of having that extra day off to do whatever they need to do in a way that we could differentiate ourselves was a win-win. So Woodson ISD opted for Monday through Thursday schedule because teachers think that they get more on Mondays from kids who grow tired as the week progresses. The exceptions are Fridays with home games with the Woodson Cowboys when all hands are on deck. Of course, football in Texas, folks, we know what that means, right? I feel very strongly that this is a positive change for our kids and our teachers, he said. A longer class period during the day and more time over the weekend breaks. The weekend break seems to help struggling students as well as students taking dual credit classes. So, okay. So what effects of a 4-day school week have? Some experts have raised concern that not enough is known about how 4-day weeks affect learning, and what studies have been done show mixed results, according to the National Conference of State Legislatures. But if you don't have districts doing it, you can't get the research, right? I mean, what came first, right? The chicken or the egg? But 4-day weeks are well in the comfort zone for Adams, who was born in Colorado and grew up in Oklahoma. Estimates are that about half of the 560 districts in the US following alternative schedules are in Colorado, Montana, Oklahoma, and Oregon, according to, again, the National Conference of State Legislatures. In 1980, 3 Colorado districts were approved for 4-day weeks, and as of 2021, 111 of the 178 districts have opted for it. So the Texas Education Agency doesn't track the number of districts choosing 4-day weeks in the state, according to them, so such school calendar decisions are under local control. But I definitely think it's going to catch on in Texas, like it has elsewhere. Olfen ISD is in rural Rowena, Texas, the birthplace of the outlaw Bonnie Parker. Rowena is about 27 miles northeast of San Angelo, and they've been on a 4-day work week since 2016. Olfen ISD Superintendent Gabe Zamora said the change wasn't to save money on utilities, for instance, but to allow more freedom for staff and students. And although we are a 4-day work school, we operate 5 days a week, said Zamora. Some students attend Monday through Thursday and have the option of having Fridays off, but elementary students seem to come no matter what option, whether they option Friday or not. So as the kids get older, they're more likely to have a parent's trust to stay home on Friday. Students may also decide to attend or not attend based on the enrichment activities offered on Fridays. A recent activity involved renting movie theaters for the kids to watch movies. I would have hoped it'd be something a little bit more intellectual, maybe chess club, right? Maybe coding would be good. Let's see, 4-day work weeks have apparently affected the district's enrollment and academic and performance. We went from a whopping 38 kids when I took over in 2015, and now we're hovering at right under 150, said Zamora. So he has almost 4 times increased it, 400%. He said the district is limited by its facilities to accommodating a maximum of 175 students. Olfen was under threat of closure because of poor academic performance before Zamora's arrival in May 2015, but the district met standard the first year of its 4-day work week year. We came up just barely short of an A the last 2 accountability years. Olfen was able to shift to an alternative schedule because in 2015, the legislature changed the requirements from 180 days to 75,600 minutes. And so the state of Texas doesn't care how those minutes are acquired. They can be acquired in 160 days or 180 days, as long as they're there and the kids go through them. Prairie Valley ISD Superintendent Tim West said he consulted with Zamora before the district started Flex Mondays this school year for PBIS's 150 students. The rural district is in north central Montague County with the Red River not far away. So that would be up near Oklahoma. It's a good little district, but I just felt like we needed to grow it. We needed a little bit of a shakeup. So students can opt to take Flex Mondays off or receive one-on-one tutoring or take part in enrichment activities. For teachers, the new schedule works out to being off 1/3 of Mondays, planning for 1/3, and providing instruction on 1/3. So pandemic restrictions meant educators couldn't carry out the original plans for enrichment activities, such as trips to museums, aquariums, and other places. So they, I'm sure, had to think about how to keep kids engaged within the school. But again, there's things to do: coding, chess club, art. We don't do enough art, singing, putting on plays. All of that is very good for kid brains. It also gives them an extra day to clean and sanitize among the pandemic, and a shorter week reduced anxiety about the virus. So at Petrolia CISD, officials came up with a solution to one of the parents' biggest concerns, and that was about what to do on the kids' weekday off. Hedges said the Petrolia district will have a list of trained high school students to provide childcare. Teens will receive training in childcare, nutrition, first aid, and handling emergency situations, and in turn, they can earn some money and get experience. Hedges said it's all part of the district's efforts to be more of a community-based school. The school is the center of the community, so we want to make our part to make sure that our families are taken care of. So that's an innovative idea that is already happening in some districts. It's been going on for 5 years. And it looks like so far they've had positive results from the, really in essence, using, it's mostly Fridays. I saw that a district was using Mondays, but mostly Fridays to still be open, but teachers are planning. There's some teachers that are helping to take care of those kids that do come in, and it's just a less stressful way of ending the week. So kudos to them. Let's see. So the other big thing that you may be reading about, besides looming teacher shortages and superintendent shortages and so forth, is the upward swing in suicide ideation in middle school, in teenagers. So there's an article that was very thorough that caught my eye. And so I really want to share it, because we all, if we don't have teens, we know people with teenagers. This has been a heck of a time to be a teenager in school. Just teenagers need school, whether they think they need it or not. They like that social piece, and it's a needed social piece for their mental health. So now we're in our 3rd year of the pandemic. Our teens are impacted, and some of them are angry. So let's talk about what we can do, first of all, to analyze the anger, and what we can do to try to mitigate it and help the teen through it. Teenage anger is a thing of legend, and it is, because we all know and have seen angry teenagers. We've been angry teenagers, maybe. The stereotype of eye-rolling, door-slamming, rebellious adolescent is often played for laughs, but for parents dealing with the real thing, it's anything but funny. Bitter outbursts, unpredictable mood swings, and frequent battles about everything from school to friends to clothes to who's going to set the table can leave parents feeling like they are walking on eggshells. And teenage anger is having a moment, because if we're honest, there's a lot for teenagers to feel angry about right now. The pandemic has caused a year of frustration and disruption. No school, well, except, I guess it might have been at home, but no hangouts, no parties, no dating, endless time spent on screens and cooped up with family, stress about getting into college, and add to that the greater issues adolescents are facing, the onward fight against racial injustice, fears about climate change, and uncertainty about what the future holds. Ooh. Anger, says Lauren Allerhand, PhD at the Child Mind Institute, isn't necessarily a bad thing. Anger is an important part of our emotional lives, but anger gets a bad rap because the urges that come with it, the yelling, the fighting, being unkind to others, can be destructive and upsetting. Very much so, right? And it's loud, right? It can be very loud to have angry teenagers doing that. It's just, and it scares the younger siblings. Ugh. Parents should strive to see teenage anger not as something to be dispelled or overcome, but as a normal part of being a person. Our job is to help kids understand that it's okay to feel angry. In the right circumstances, like when it drives us to strive for social change, anger can be motivating. Being angry doesn't mean there's something wrong with you. It means that you have to find a way to deal with those feelings. The goal, she says, shouldn't be to stop teens from feeling anger, but to help them find safer, less harmful, and even productive ways of expressing it. Finding healthy ways to process anger can be a challenge even for the most mature of adults, but teenage biology creates an extra layer of difficulty. Though on the outside, teens may basically seem like and insist that they are grown-ups, their brains and bodies are still growing. The prefrontal cortex, which is the part of our brains involved in problem solving and impulse control, isn't fully developed until your mid to late 20s. Adolescents are also flushed with hormones like testosterone and estrogen, which can have a significant impact on mood. When kids make impulsive decisions or seem like they're overreacting to small provocations, it can be helpful to remember that they're biologically less equipped to handle and manage overwhelming feelings, like anger, with adults. So how do we decode the anger? Helping kids learn to talk about what's causing their anger can be hugely important. True, some teenage snippiness can be chalked up to the developmentally appropriate, if annoying for parents, the task of separating from parent. So you say you like it, they're going to say they hate it, right? But anger can also belie serious problems. Irritability, mood swings, and outbursts may be symptoms of disorders like anxiety and depression. Reactions to trauma or negative experiences with kids, which kids feel unable to cope, can also surface as bursts of temper. Even less significant struggles like trouble at school or problems with friends or relationships can masquerade as anger, especially if kids lack the tools to investigate and articulate their feelings. So what should parents do? First of all, you reach out. If you notice your teen has been angrier or more irritable than usual, don't skirt the issue. Instead, let them know that you've noticed something is wrong and invite them to talk when they're ready. I can tell you're upset and I'd really like to help. Can we make time to talk? If your child seems resistant, take a step back and say, okay, clinical psychologist Colin de Miranda says, leave the door open, but don't force it. Instead, I'd recommend saying something like, I can see you're really angry right now, and it doesn't look like you want to talk. I'll be in the other room when you're ready. When your child is ready to talk, let them know that you take their feelings seriously. The absolute number one thing is validation. Our emotions are a communication tool. They let others know how we feel and help us get our needs met. Teenage problems can seem silly or overdramatic to adults, but your child is feeling that those are real and painful. When your child expresses anger about something, be careful not to minimize or dismiss it. Instead, acknowledge how they're feeling. Yeah, that sounds upsetting. And do your best to ask questions and listen without passing judgment or trying to solve the problem. It can also be hard not to feel frustrated when your teenager's anger, as it may often be, is directed at you. But even when kids are being incredibly difficult, they're still relying on you to be the calmer influence and let them know that, that how they're feeling matters to you. Taking a moment to really acknowledge their emotional experience can also help diffuse the situation. It's hard to stay mad when someone really sincerely says, I understand how you're feeling, I'm here to help. But let's be real, parents. It's hard to be your best self under pressure. Nobody likes being yelled at or having a door slammed in their face. Parents are only human and teenagers can be infuriating. It's normal to feel frustrated, confused, or, furious. But kids, and yes, even teenagers, look to parents on cues on how to behave. And as with so much of parenting, helping kids learn the skills they need to cope with anger is much more about showing than telling. One thing that is often really hard for parents to recognize when they're trying to manage their kids' anger is the role of their own emotional play. So let me say that again, because it's this important. One thing that is often really hard for parents to recognize when they're trying to manage their kids' anger is the role their own emotions play, said Miranda. This doesn't mean that parents can't or shouldn't get angry, but it doesn't mean that you, but it does mean that when you handle it, you do it in a way that sends a message that's different than what you're seeing, right? You don't want to get angry and throw a tantrum and you roll your eyes at them and slam a door, right? You can show anger through your body language and tone, but you have to be careful how you do that. Be conscious of your body language and tone. How you say things can matter just as much as what you're saying. For example, I'm sorry you're feeling frustrated sounds good on paper, but if you're saying it through gritted teeth, you're unlikely to get a good response. Practice mindfulness skills like deep breathing, counting to 10, or taking a walk to clear your head, and let your teenager see you do it after you become angry. Take a break. It can be tempting to charge headlong into an argument, but realistically, no one is at their best when they're angry. If you or your teen are struggling to keep your temper during an exchange, don't press it. Instead, model healthy coping skills by choosing to take a break until you've cooled off. Be open and clear about your reason for pausing the conversation. For example, I really want to talk this through with you, but I can tell I'm just too frustrated for it to be productive right now. Let's both take some time to cool down and we'll come back to it when we're feeling calmer. Come back to the conversation when you're both less upset. You'll not only be giving yourself and your teenager a better chance at saying what you really mean, you'll also be demonstrating the value of learning how to de-escalate. But when to seek help, right? Because some of this sounds normal, right? But there comes a time when maybe it's gone on too long. The child doesn't seem to be able to get past the reason why he or she is angry. So when to seek help? Anger, frustration, irritation, even rage are all a normal part of being a person. And teenagers are prone to intense feelings, but if your teen's anger is outsized and it's having a negative impact on their life, it may be time to seek help. Anytime that there's a consistent violence or consistent aggression that can't be stifled or doesn't really necessarily correlate with the stimuli. For example, if the explosions that are out of proportion with what's going on, if they got mad at a sibling because the sibling ate the last cookie and yet they exploded over it, those are red flags. Likewise, anger that seems to come out of nowhere or is persistent, regardless of what's going on, may be a sign of something more serious. Everyone's threshold is going to be different, said Alderin. But if a child's anger is impacting their ability to function or having a serious impact on the family at large, there's a concern about physical harm, like getting into fights or hurting themselves or others, then it's time to seek outside help. That said, our clinicians caution parents to remember that this past year has been unusually difficult for teenagers and everyone else, and that our collective ability to cope with stress has been taxed to the breaking point. We could all benefit from practicing a little acceptance. This has been such a hard time, especially for teenagers. I think it's really important that parents recognize that even though it may not look like it, kids are trying. And that while they may blow up, it has more to do with their brain development and their ability to control the chemical signals and the extraordinary amount of stress we've all been under than anything else. It can be easy, he said, for parents to become over-focused on the bad, the mad, and to forget to honor the good moments. Something simple that we can do is to remember that we're all doing the best that we can in the current situation and with our skill set. Finding ways to give a little space and a little grace and being intentional about acknowledging and enjoying good moments with your teenager will help you both feel more connected and give you something to come back to when the blow-ups inevitably happen. So I hope that that's supporting some of maybe what is going on in your home, maybe giving you new information. Maybe it's giving you the understanding it's time to get some help. But the suicide ideation that our, especially middle school kids are experiencing, it is off the chart, especially our females. Our female middle school suicide attempts has doubled. The numbers are incredibly high. And so paying attention to our kids and what's going on with them is very important. It's always been important, but it's especially important in this third year of COVID. So let me end with just some positives. I have, because of a need that I saw out there, I have written an online course to help teenagers get college and career ready. College and career ready means really understanding what your current interests are and what that would look like at the college level, at the vocational level, maybe even military, and what to do and how to be prepared for it ahead of time. You know, many of our counselors, especially in the big districts, big schools, have up to 400 kids each, and they can't really do their best college and career readiness prep for each of those students. So this is an opportunity for kids and parents to know what the high school requirements are, how to navigate through all of the college readiness information. There's the FAFSA, which is the federal tool that parents and students fill out, especially if they want to qualify for scholarships based on income. And that must be started early. And then there's the ASVAB, which is the military test that is given usually in 10th grade, sometimes 11th, that will help kids know where they are and lets the military know if they're a good fit for the military, if the child is so inclined. So there's a lot of information out there that parents need to know, need to navigate. And so if you want more information, I'll put the link. I've already started it. I'll start my second one today, but these are 5-week courses. And as I go through them with my first pilot group, they're going to show me how to do it better. So hopefully by the second time around, I'll be even more effective as your college and career readiness coach. Well, everyone, you know, keeping safe from COVID is become sort of an everyday thing. I hope that you have gotten your routine down to where it is a natural thing, that you have not had COVID in your family lately, and, you know, keep up the good work if you haven't. As always, thank you for joining me, and I'll see you next week. Thank you, everyone.